there are 9 areas where clinicians dominate in the field compared to non-clinicians. And I bet reasons 7, 8, and 9 are ones you didn't even realize you had. The problem is most of you are hiding these 9 skills, or you don't know how to use them correctly. So today, I'll teach you how to turn your clinical past into an unfair advantage so that you can convince hiring managers you're ready for your first role as either an MSL or pharma sales rep. Now, what do I mean by field roles? Field roles are non-office-based roles, which means you're representing the customer and you're going out into the field and speaking to clinicians day in, day out. This can be in a medical capacity as an MSL or a commercial capacity as a pharma sales rep. Now, I've been working in the industry for over 10 years and I've won multiple awards, both within company and industry-wide. And consistently, whether it's been myself or some of the amazing people I've gotten to work with, the reason field staff do so well is because clinicians know, like, and trust them. And what does this mean? It means the field person is able to influence because they're well known, they're liked, and they're trusted. Now I'm going to focus purely on the trust element of those 3. If you're keen to learn more about how to instantly build rapport with anyone, I'll leave a link to that tutorial in the description below. Now let's start off with the first point, and that's instant credibility with doctors. I'll never forget the day I got flown into Melbourne for my first pharma sales training camp with 30 others, and I got partnered up with a very experienced sales rep. He'd sold wine, he'd sold gym equipment, and I thought, wow, this guy's super interesting. And admittedly, I was a little intimidated in that he had such extensive sales experience and I had a fat donut. I thought, this guy's going to be great to partner with. I'm going to learn so much from him. And as we started to read through all the scientific material, we started to role play. It gradually unraveled that all that experience he had did not translate into pharma sales, as the way he would speak about the data, the way he would try to influence was, in my mind, outrageous. I thought, there is no way your approach is going to be well received by any doctor. And that's because he didn't speak the clinical language. He didn't understand the workflow, and he didn't understand the pressure of managing patients. Versus for those of you coming from a clinical background, nurse, pharmacist, physio, even health science, when doctors see you, they instantly think, this person gets it. I can trust them. The second one is a deep understanding of the disease, patients, and treatment pathways. Being in the field, whether you're an MSL or a sales rep, is about influencing and driving behavior change. And you're only able to effectively drive behavior change when you truly deeply understand patient barriers, the clinical decision-making process, treatment algorithms, and real-world challenges. And by understanding these 4 points, it makes it so much easier for you to objection handle, tailor specific messaging, identify unmet needs, which together add value to the conversation you'll be having with the clinician. And yes, surprise, surprise, MSLs do need to influence and drive behavior change. MSLs effectively are also selling, which is a nice way for me to bring me to my third point about selling and influencing. Whether it's medical or pharma sales, you do need to influence. But even as a clinician, you might not even notice this, but you are influencing and selling to someone every day. Let me give you some examples. As a pharmacist, you're persuading patients to take their medication. As a physio, you're persuading your patients to adhere to their exercise regime. As a nurse, you need to influence doctors. You might also be educating patients and their families. As an occupational therapist, you need to advocate for treatment protocols. And in all of these roles, you need to simplify complex information, distill it down into simple, easy to understand language that ultimately drives a behavior change, because you're trying to help the patient get from being sick or unwell to a position where they're going to be healthier and out of hospital. That's sales psychology in its purest form, just without a quota. So really, on this channel, I want everyone to normalize the word sales. All it means is influencing. And for those of you who are regular subscribers on the channel, firstly, I thank you for your support. But secondly, I think you know how passionate I am about sales. And I strongly dislike how the word sales has negative connotations versus the word leadership having such positive connotations. When sales is influencing, leadership is also influencing. And surprise, surprise, in the corporate world, using the word influence throughout your interviews, throughout your resume, is going to help you stand out from the rest of the other candidates, because they will be afraid to use that word, associating it with negative connotations, thinking the interviewer, oh, sales is a dirty word. No, people already in the industry, whether it's medical affairs or pharma sales, love the word, how do you influence without authority? The fourth one, in particular for specialty care, is understanding the hospital or even primary care environment. Most new pharma reps who don't come from a clinician background, like the one I sat in training with, take months to learn who the key decision makers are, how formularies work, how doctors actually speak to their patients, how doctors run their clinics, and how time poor they are. And if you're a pharmacist, you have a deep understanding of what the competitive landscape looks like in terms of other treatment options. This is a massive competitive edge, and I really hope you drive this home in your interviews. Now, number 5, clinicians naturally bring so much empathy and patient-centric care, because that's how we were trained. And I think modern pharma companies really do care about patient outcomes. And in particular, prescribing doctors do care about their patients. So if you can really understand that, and a doctor can sense the empathy and the patient-focused approach that you have, it is also going to help you influence and have better conversations with them. And ultimately, this builds longer-term trust between you and your customers. Now, if you're enjoying the content so far and you want to turn your clinical credibility into a career in pharma, there's a booking link in the description below to book in a one-on-one chat with me to understand if pharma is for you and what sort of roles you should be looking at. Let's call it the Career Clarity Call. I look forward to connecting with you there. Now, for the final 3, having worked in a busy community and hospital pharmacy, one ace up the sleeve of many clinicians is being able to perform under extreme pressure. And in addition to that, since we're dealing with patients' health, life, safety, we're able to effectively handle high stakes. So if you've managed patients in emergency, in critical care, you've picked up on medication errors, you've dealt with demanding families, or you've taken on complex caseloads, you really need to be telling the hiring manager how capable you are as a problem solver in sorting through these high pressure, high stakes situations. As handling a tough sales target or a difficult doctor is nothing compared to these 5. Reason 7 is clinicians are fast learners, especially, not to be biased here, but I think from a pharmacist perspective, we have a huge advantage in learning the pharmaceutical industry because of our drug and therapeutic area knowledge. Whether that's clinical trial data, mechanism of action, competitor landscape, safety profiles, drug guidelines, pharmacists, but also clinicians can learn this at speed because it's familiar territory. This reduces onboarding time and increases early performance, which any hiring manager would love to see. Reason number 8, we bring a level of professionalism that stands out. We know how to communicate clearly. We know how to document accurately. We present professionally. We maintain confidentiality. And generally, we do follow the rules, unless we're running late to see an important clinician and we have to speed through the occasional red light. I've never done that before. Now, lucky last, reason number 9, you understand what actually matters to healthcare professionals. Like the gentleman who was selling the wine and the gym equipment, he would only pitch features, but he couldn't speak to what was relevant to a clinician. There are 5 key things a doctor genuinely cares about. First of all, patient safety. Second of all, their time and administrative burden. Thirdly, the efficacy and outcomes of the drug they need to use. Fourth, the evidence behind the drug they're going to use. And the 5th one, how convenient or easy is it to use this particular drug? Does it embed into their workflow? Is it on the hospital formulary? Ultimately, speaking to these 5s makes your conversation sharper and more impactful. So if you've been rejected in a few of your interviews, don't be disheartened. Keep your head up. You already have the keys. You just haven't figured out the right doors to put those keys in. And again, that's why I've got the Career Clarity Call in the link below, so we can help remove those roadblocks for you. Now, trust helps you win once, but sustainability matters more. In the next video, we'll talk about livelihood. Click here to see real pharma salaries revealed.